This morning I was talking to two female friends of mine, people I feel very close to. One of them was saying that she doesn't like wearing shorts because she has varicose veins or cellulite or something like that. And we got around to talking about who was the concern, who was going to look and make fun of the varicose veins. And it ended up we thought that maybe women were the ones who were looking at the varicose veins and saying, you're too old in her 40s to be wearing shorts. We came around to in the conversation to who doesn't have cellulite on their legs, and who doesn't have cellulite are little girls who are under 15 years old. So why are we as grown women trying to look like little girls? And of course the answer is because we were trained that we all should be prettier by looking like younger and younger girls. And it's just ick. It's not right. And then the other girlfriend, she's in a weight loss journey, and she's gorgeous, and she's wearing a bikini because she's vacationing in South America. And she showed us her bikini, and I was like, that's amazing. That's awesome that she felt good in that, and she should have felt good in that. But it's still a conscious thing that she still feels a little bit like I need to tuck in, things like that, just like all of us do at this age. And I wonder, as powerful women in our 50s, why are we constantly tucking and struggling and putting on all of the creams and the hair dyes and all of the things that we do as women collectively to look younger? Why is that? I know why that is. Is there a way we can try to put that aside?
That's a great question. I think I want to start with why that is, though. I think
Sure.
it's important to name it and call it out. I mean, it has everything to do with, well, for me, it has everything to do with what other people told me and what the culture told me when I was young, and not in such a formative age that it's very difficult to disentangle myself from the messages that my worth is tied to my beauty, my physical beauty, my outward beauty. And I remember articles in magazines that would literally spell out for you how to do this and how to do that and how to be, how to do these little tricks so that you could be more beautiful, and that was the whole purpose of the magazine. There probably still are those magazines. That was the whole purpose of the magazine, was to teach you how to be more beautiful for other people. And the thing is, then we all bought into the things. So there was a period of time, I think in the 80s, I think it might have been in the early 80s, where being like anorexic stick thin was in fashion. Looking like a little boy was in fashion. And so you couldn't see models that had any curves or fat on them at all. And those were the formative years for me. So I still have this idea in my head that skinny is beautiful and fat is not. Now, I've come a really long way, so I don't run my entire life around that premise like I did when I was a younger person. But but I've had so many people in my lifetime tell me, comment on, mostly on my weight. Mostly on my weight. Almost all of it has been on my weight.
Will comment on your body?
Oh God, all the time. All the time. As a kid, less so now. I think that my age gives me a little bit of invisibility in the world right now. But I remember one time I was walking with a friend in Southern California. It was a beautiful day. We both were wearing shorts and we were walking up the hill, and a car full of teenagers drove by and said something to me about my butt hanging out or something. And it clearly wasn't for my friend, because my friend was very, very thin. And it just like shut me down in that moment. I had another friend who was asking me one time what I was going to go to college to study. And I said, well, I'd really love to be in the media. I want to be on television. And he said to me, oh, you're going to have to lose a lot more weight if you want to be on television. And I was so body dysmorphized at the time that my best friend and I both took a photograph for our local newspaper that was to highlight the upcoming musical. And I have, throughout my entire young life, I looked at that photograph and was disgusted at how fat I was compared to my friend. Set the thing aside, 20, 30 years goes by. Now I look at the photograph and with an objective view, we were exactly the same size.
Right.
But I couldn't see it. All I could see was the fat because I was constantly getting these messages of, you have to be thinner, you have to be thinner, you have to be thinner. And so even now, it's very, very difficult to just, as much as I like to say, I don't give a fuck about what people think. And in a lot of ways, that's really, really true. I don't give a what people think. But I have internalized the needing to be thin enough that when I'm not at a weight that I'm comfortable with, it makes me uncomfortable, makes me unhappy.
We have been in and out of closeness for most of our lives until now, because now I'm never letting you go. But when we were little like high school, we were only 2 years apart, so we went to the same schools in general. You were a very typical size. So I'm shocked that people were bullying you about being bigger, because A, you weren't. I feel like they were bullying you and just picking on something that wasn't even true at that point. And then that you got that internalized and have carried that along with you. It feels like that's when the damage happened, that people in your adult life probably weren't talking about your weight as much
Okay.
as when you were a very typical size.
So when I was in my very first ever job, professional job, I was a public speaker and regularly. And this job was so stressful, and I ate to combat stress and put on quite a lot of weight while I was working in that job. And my boss brought me aside one day and said, people are concerned for you about your health. And so we have someone in the organization that has offered to pay for a year of gym membership for you if you think they'll do that, if you can commit to going. And I was in my late 20s and early 30s at that time.
This makes me just absolutely sick to my stomach, and I feel like the intention was probably perceived to be good, but weight gain, it has nothing to do with gym.
Yeah.
If there's an eating because of stress, the gym is only going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And people telling you to go to the gym is not going to be effective.
And
I'm so sorry.
Here's the other thing. What's that going to do for me the next week that I had to go and be public speaker in front of people? And now all I can see is what they're seeing on my body. I had people oh my God. You just would not even. I used to wear pants and suits because it was just more comfortable. But on really special occasions, I would dress in a dress. And when I wore dresses, girl, the old men would come by and they'd be like, wow, it's so great to see you really do have legs. Did you hear anything I just said? Because I was just speaking. Did you hear what I said, or did all you noticed was the legs because I was wearing a dress that day?
So this has been my experience. I've not been, I've been thin most of my life until I had babies and cancer and other things. But when I was a younger person, like teenaged, the comments I got about my body were not about size shaming. It was about over-sexualizing a young child. So I remember at 12 years old, I got this jean skirt, super trendy, and it was, the stonewashed halfway, anyway. So I wore this jean skirt to church, which I thought was cool, whatever. We were progressive. And the dads, the people who were my dad's friends, were talking about me. Ooh, look at that. You have long legs. You have, like, just talking about my body, like, in a sexualized way. And I thought, these are people who I look at as my second parents, my third parents, and they're sexualizing me at 12 years old. And it's just icky. And that has been my thing my whole life. When I was 17, I went to Madrid for a while, and we were just walking down the street, and my friend grabbed my arm and pulled me aside because there was a guy coming toward us, and he was saying something like, oh, the joys of summer, but he was drunk or stoned or something. And she was like, let's just get away from this. So that Even someone who isn't a typical size, well, I think as you were, people are talking about our bodies as girls, no matter what, in some negative way or another.
That's so interesting. So, from my perspective, I think one of the reasons why we try to keep women physically small is because it makes them small. And I think making women smaller is a way to shut down their voice, to shut down their action. If you if you are literally hanging on by a thread because you are starving yourself to where you have no energy, you can't fight the patriarchy when you're feeling like nauseous because you haven't eaten in 5 days. So I definitely think that there's an element of wanting to make us smaller. And I think even making comments to people who are typical weights, like the ones that you got, is intended to make you feel smaller because you don't walk away from those things feeling like top of the world, right? You shrink. Every time you get those kinds of comments, you shrink.
They were so hypersexualized. At 12 years old, I don't want grown men to be calling me sexy. That's icky, then gross, and yeah, it makes me want to cover up and
Be
be
small.
smaller. So I want to go on a side quest right now, and that is females judging other females for what they look like. Because my friend was saying this morning when she didn't want to wear shorts because of the cellulite normal body processes, that it was she remembered back to her high school years that she would look at older women in their 40s, older women, and say, "Oh, they've got cellulite. You're too old to wear shorts." So that was something that girls were doing
Yeah.
when we were girls, and I feel like that has persisted, and we can't blame those comments on. We can blame it on patriarchy and misogyny, but we can't blame women judging women on men judging us.
I think the initial messages, though, came from the patriarchy, and then we internalize them, and then we project them outward. We try to deflect the bullets that are coming our way and shoot them at other women because at
Why
least
do we do that?
maybe then we're not the ones that get hit. I don't know. It's never really been a thing for me to attack women for really any reason, for their
Mm-hmm.
looks, for their success, for their money, for what cars they drive or what partner they have. Okay, I sometimes judge them for their partners. The point being, it's hard for me to understand why women do that to other women because I really, really, really am on the side of women need to empower other women. And we are never going to get out of living under the patriarchy as long as we are constantly at each other.
When men criticize women, I take that as a serious sign of insecurity. And I wonder if there's something similar when women judge other women for what they look like or what they've not done with their hair or for their size of their body, the shape of their body, the fit of their clothes. Is that some sort of insecurity that women have that they're projecting on somebody else? Just to bring that other person down so they feel better about themselves? Is that plausible?
That sounds spot on to me. Yeah, I think so. Because even when you interview the most beautiful female celebrities, they will also all say that they have things about their bodies that they hate. So something's in there that we're never going to be good enough. No matter how hard we try, no matter how perfect, no matter how beautiful, no matter how successful, we're never going to be enough. And I think you really nailed it when you said it's not necessarily about making themselves feel better as it is about making you feel worse. Like they feel awful, they want to bring you down with them. They want to make you small too.
Let's go on side quest number 2, and that is all the ridiculous things that women do to their bodies that men are not expected to do and it would be quite odd if they did do, like shaving legs,
Shaving.
plucking eyebrows.
Girl, are we going to go there? Because I want to talk about this, about the sexualization of little girls and little boys, to be honest. So,
That's what it comes to.
hair shaving, plucking eyebrows, not having curves, not having a belly, not having cellulite, all of those things are because little girls don't have any of those things. And with the Epstein files coming to light, I I literally went to bed last night thinking to myself, holy shit. Are there any men on the planet that aren't secretly pedophiles? Like because it's so prevalent right now. But then when you think about it in the lens, what you just said, we have been trained and conditioned to make ourselves look more like little girls. So even men who are marrying women are wanting their women to look like little girls. Like, and if you're a man and you're listening and you don't feel this way, I will apologize to you for implying that you might have some pedophilia tendencies. Maybe you don't. But I really had to go to bed last night being like, is this just we just didn't, is it just a thing and they all know it, but we're just finding out for the first time?
Is it possible that men have been conditioned to prefer adult women who look like little girls without even realizing that connection that they've been socialized to and conditioned to between what they find attractive or what we as society find attractive and pedophilia? Because I feel like there are a lot of men who might make comments and prefer shaved legs and whatnot, but I don't think that they are at heart pedophiles. I think they've been conditioned to prefer that kind of norm without recognizing that what they're conditioned to prefer is a little girl.
That's a really interesting question. Is it conditioning or is it inherent? And I don't have an answer for that. I definitely think there is conditioning happening. But by whom?
That's a really, really good question.
Right?
Well, I feel like there are people in charge. There are people in charge, billionaires, people who are making money off of female razors, pink female razors that cost more than blue razors. I think there are people making money, billionaires, who set the standards. And I think those people are probably more close to the pedophilia than they are to the conditioning, and they're just trying to excuse their behavior by making most men prefer attributes of little girls.
So since we're discussing the billionaire class and their tendencies toward pedophilia, I've come to understand that the reason why these men chose raping little girls and little boys as the thing that they would do is because they have so much fucking money and have done everything under the sun. And the only thing that they still have left is to find the most heinous thing that most cultures agree upon and do that knowing that they're never going to get caught. And that what they're getting off on is not just what they're doing to the little girls, but they're getting off on knowing that they're going to get away with this and that they have the money to get away with this. I still want to go back to the question then. So who is conditioning men and women to prefer women to look and act and behave and sound like, in some cases, little girls? The keep sweet voice is not only limited to the religious cults. You can find the keep sweet voice in a lot of mainstream places, like individuals who just like that's what they feel comfortable doing, making themselves smaller and making their voices smaller.
So there is a keep, and I don't mean to be judgmental here, I'm going to pre-apologize, but there is a keep sweet voice in Japanese business, where Japanese business women are taught to speak in a higher register. So when I went to Japan, I felt like a bull in a china shop because I don't speak in a higher register, and I feel like I was just plowing people over and being this dumb, clumsy American. But I'm not going to change for that. So my 20-year-old daughter doesn't shave her legs, and none of her friends shave their legs. The boys, the girls, the in-betweens don't shave their legs. And so in the wintertime, I don't shave my legs, but I still feel this compulsion as a child of the 80s that I need to shave my legs. It's just gross not to, but men don't shave their legs. Men have just as much hair on their legs and they don't care. So what is that? Where is that coming from? I feel like in the moment it's coming from people that I was with when I was in the 80s. Other girls, other women.
And even now, it is other women often that are it's women telling other women the ways that they should present themselves in public. And it's not even always malicious. Sometimes it's intended to be like, girl, you really should take care of this or that. So I am absolutely floored at this concept of free bleeding now that we're discussing this.
If you are liking our content, please like and subscribe and comment. We would love to hear what you have to say.
So I am absolutely floored at this concept of free bleeding. The first time I even heard of this concept was maybe a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years. Like, it was a completely brand new concept to me. And the idea of bleeding and doing nothing to stop it from making a mess is just, it's mind-boggling to me. And then I saw the video of the marathon runner whose period started at the beginning of the race, and she wasn't about to give up this dream of a race for a period. And so she ran the whole entire race and ended the race just not even covered in blood. Honestly, there was a spot there for, considering how much she just did with her body, it was a pretty small amount compared to the effort that she put in to make that race happen. And it was shocking to me, and also so liberating. I was like, you could do this. This is an option.
So a moment ago, you said that you were mind boggled. Describe what that meant. Good, bad?
I couldn't wrap my, no, I am so conditioned that period blood is more disgusting than any other human bodily fluid, including regular blood. I'm so conditioned that period blood is the worst thing that I just could not wrap my head around someone making the conscious choice to just let it run free and not give a fuck about what people were thinking about it. Because so in my household, in a previous life when I was married, I had to wrap all of my products in wads and wads of toilet paper, because if I put any products in the garbage can unwrapped, I would hear about it, because that's gross. It's disgusting.
What could he possibly say about that?
He would tell me that I needed to wrap them. And when I was entrapped in that marriage, I was willing to do that, because obviously I couldn't do anything that was going to make my spouse uncomfortable.
It's sinking in. Yes, we were conditioned that periods and period products and blood were not to be discussed, not to be in public. I remember I was maybe 17, I was dating a guy, went to the movies with him and my mom and dad, and I had a tampon in my pocket, and it fell out on the floor in front of everybody, and I was frozen. And I was like, okay, don't look down, don't look down. And my mom said, go pick that up. And I just thought, you're saying this out loud, right? She had the right idea. So I'm teaching my son, my 12-year-old son. He goes to retrieve products for my daughter when she needs them. He will pick stuff up at the store if we're in the store together. We talk about periods all the time like it's normal, because half the world has periods.
My husband would not pick up feminine products for me. Just wouldn't, refuse to do it. So I'm so glad to hear that you're raising your son to not see the world that way. And I do think that a lot of, let me just say, the Gen Xers are raising Gen Zs to be different than the way that we were raised. We were feral. in some of the best ways, and in others not so much. And I'm talking about generationally speaking. But I think Gen X, as a generation, I think Gen X did a really good job of raising Gen Zs to be more just aware and conscious and less swayed by the public opinion about, particularly around standards of beauty, around issues about women's issues. I had a colleague one time that, maybe it was you. I knew someone one time that would, when she needed to get out of the office for some reason because she needed to take care of a kid, or she had errands to run on the way home, that she would just go into the boss and be like, I need to leave early today. I have female problems. And like, don't need to know anymore. You know, as if that was like, that was such a big, scary thing for the men that they would rather let you leave for that than because your child was sick.
So I used to use feminine problems to get out of PE in junior high and high school. I never did that professionally. If I needed to go be with a kid professionally, I would just say I've got to go get my kid. I had no problem about that. But yeah, I get out of PE. I had a lot of male PE teachers afraid of me and my friends.
Amazing. I mean, it's terrible. Don't. That's terrible. You should never do that. It's amazing.
The teacher should know how to deal with it.
Oh, they didn't. They didn't.
No,
No,
they did
in the
not.
80s, not at all. And I don't know what the world is like now. I think that probably there are men in the world now who don't have such a difficult time talking about periods or addressing things that are women's issues. I think there's a lot of openness. So I am very grateful that we're kind of moving in that direction. I still think we have a long way to go though, because I will not take a shower and not shave my legs because I just don't know how to make that transition, and I don't know if I want to make that transition.
Here's my question to you. How many people in your real world see your bare legs?
I in the summertime, probably I wear shorts a lot in the summer.
Okay. Okay. In the winter
do.
then.
I wear-
Let's specifically
Oh,
for the
in the-
winter
yeah.
because you shave
Oh,
what I would say for no reason whatsoever.
No, I shave because it's so physically uncomfortable for me to have leggings on with stubble. It makes me like it sends those icky shivers up my spine when when the fabric rubs against stubble.
So this is a sensory issue.
So
This
it's not
isn't
yeah, for me
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
sensory issue. I think it really is truly a sensory issue for me, because like I feel like if I got past all of that and had just long hair on my legs, I probably wouldn't have that same sensation. But I've no idea what that would feel like. I have zero experience with knowing what that feels like to have long hair on my legs. I think I've been shaving since before I had hair on my legs. I've
So-
never ever had leg hair.
Let's dig deep. What about underarm hair?
Can't do it. Same. No, texture. It's a texture
For your own body.
for my own body. Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't care what other women do. for
So
their
I
body.
was in
not a bit.
I was in Germany in the late 1980s and in the summertime, and there were a lot of women who were holding up, on the metro, and I could just see them going back and forth, tons of underarm hair, and my reaction, of course, as a kid from the 80s was like, you got to shave, buddy, because that's what our mother told us. You have to shave, and then it was just like you said earlier, just so liberating. Like, you know what, you're wasting so much less of your life than I'm wasting. For no reason. And the man right next to you also has underarm hair, and nobody cares about that man's underarm hair.
Who cares?
It's a whole thing. Okay, it's a whole thing. Underarm hair, nipples. Why can't we show female nipples on the beach, but we can show male nipples? What's that about? That makes no sense to me.
And the male nipple is completely useless. At
Well,
least the female nipple has a purpose.
But the
I mean,
fact
like
that
a
it's-
functional purpose.
The fact of it that it's functional doesn't mean it needs to be hidden. I mean, I'm not going to go out topless. I'm not. I'm too old school for that. But what's the difference? Why can men go out topless? How many men
This
are
is
on
why.
TikTok with no shirt on? You put your clothes on, buddy.
Yeah, most of the time.
What?
Sometimes I'm okay.
Sometimes you're okay to go out
Most of the
naked?
time- No, most of the time I want them to put their shirt on.
Oh, okay. Well, we
And
can
some of the
we can
time I
be
don't.
so if we
That's a
could be
whole nother
selective.
conversation.
Yes.
So the reason is because women aren't out in the world groping naked men. But men feel like if we were given free rein to walk around exposed, they would just not be able to help themselves. It would be hurting them because they would have to reach over and grab boobs everywhere they went. And so for our own protection, we have to cover up because they can't help themselves.
My daughter often she's got these really beautiful, colorful, textured bras, and she often wears that as a shirt with a little see-through top or a sweater on top of it. And when she was younger, I would have a reaction to that until I internalized, if she's grabbed in the boob by someone who can't help themselves, it's 100% that other person's fault. She should be able to go out
Yes.
topless and not be grabbed. And that's, I mean, for a kid of my era, that's mind-blowing. But of course, that's so obvious once I get to that place of it's not the fault of the person who's being grabbed in any way, that
That's
it
a
now seems so obvious to me.
So that's a really good point. And I think that this was another part of the conditioning of children in the 80s and probably into the 90s as well, which was we always, always, always blame the victim. And I think one of the reasons why, I mean, I hate to, I'm sorry, I keep coming back to this, but I think one of the reasons why the Epstein affair kept going as long as it did was because at the time that it was happening to a lot of these women, they were speaking up and they were getting reprimanded for it. They were the ones getting in trouble when they spoke up. So we absolutely have been raised in a culture of blame the victim.
Even on small levels, like school uniforms. I love the idea of uniforms. I hate female school uniforms. Hate, hate, hate. The little skirts that, I mean, why do we do that? Why do we do that? And then this is my point, that the women have to wear skirts that are low enough that it doesn't distract the boys. Like it's their problem. I mean, it's pervasive. This is
Yeah.
just stating it like that. The school uniform or the school dress code is intended to make sure that the women don't distract the men. What is that?
Yeah. That is everything is the fault of women since the creation of the myth of Adam and Eve. Yes, I said it. It's a myth. It didn't actually happen. The story was taken as a way of keeping women small, about blaming, literally an entire religion has blamed the entirety of humankind's sin on a woman.
So not only did she come from a piece of him, she's the one who's at fault for all of humanity's suffering.
She's the reason. She's the reason that we all suffer. Therefore, we should all, for the rest of eternity, be punished for her sin. Yeah, this makes me hot and mad. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. This whole blame the victim makes me mad. The whole make women small makes me mad. I'm kind of in a place right now in my life journey where I'm trying to figure out. I've come such a long way already with not caring what people think, but I still have some areas where I kind of want to work on not caring as much about what people think. And physicality is definitely one of them. When I was married, I stopped dancing in my kitchen. I used to love to dance. Anytime there was music, I was moving. But I had gotten to a point where my spouse was so desperate for sex all the time that I learned to stop moving my body, because if I moved my body in any kind of way, it was an invitation for sex. And so I stopped dancing. And literally the weekend after he moved out, I turned all the lights off in my kitchen because I wasn't still comfortable with the idea of people outside of the house looking in. I turned all the lights off and I danced. I danced. I played that music so loud, I danced in that kitchen for like an hour.
Within weeks of that, though, you and I were on FaceTime putting music on the stereo and dancing together on FaceTime.
Yeah, we were. It was like I had like 30 years of built up dancing in me that I had stopped doing. But it's not just the marriage. It was everything throughout the world. I stopped moving my body, physically moving. I moved through the world like a shadow as best I could for a lot of years because I didn't want to be noticed, because to be noticed as a woman is an invitation to harassment. It just is.
I wonder if every woman on the planet has some degree of trying to move through the world like a shadow as to avoid the harassment, the honking, the sex, the the judgment about our bodies. Okay, so here's the question. What do we do?
The first thing that I did was turn that damn music back on and start dancing. So I first did it for me, and then I started to let that part of me out into the world a little bit more. And I move through the world very differently now. I move through sure-footed. And I used to be a ducking out of the way for people when we were passing. And now I'm like put my shoulders back and walk. And let me tell you what, the C's part when you walk with your shoulders back. They do. People will get out of your way. And if the people don't get out of your way, then it's a mutual, like, okay, we both came to this place. This wasn't a me issue. This wasn't a you issue. We both got here. And I'm comfortable that we accidentally bumped shoulders because you held your ground and I held my ground. I'm cool with that.
So this is a whole side quest number 3. When I walk on the sidewalk, not now, but most of my life, when I walk on the sidewalk, men who are walking down the sidewalk the opposite way expect the women to get out of the way. And we do. We did. I don't now, and I will full on chest to chest a guy if he's not getting out of my way, or if he's fully expecting me to get out of his way, not even paying attention to we can both move over. I will full on, chest bump a dude. But there's expectation that they have the right of way and women get to go around them because that's what happens most of the time.
And the reason we always get out of the way is because of all of the prior and past harassment and grabbing and objectifications of our bodies means that the only way to avoid being objectified is to get out of the way. Right? There's not an opportunity to be walking down the street and avoid being objectified when you're taking up space.
So is this objectification the pedophilia of wanting all the women to look like girls versus the judgment about our bodies when it's not the body, I guess, of a little girl? I'm trying to distinguish between those two things, but I think it's the same thing. I think all the judgment about the negative things about not wearing makeup, having lines on your neck, or being the wrong size or the wrong shape or the wrong height or the wrong clothes, I think all of those things are the wrong is to be over 15 years old or to look over 15 years old, right?
So that just sparked an interesting idea in my head, or a thought in my head. The things that we are expected to do once we pass 15 years old in order to look like we're 15 are impossible to achieve. So if you set an entire gender of people out into the world trying to achieve an impossible goal, they will spin their wheels and spin their wheels and spin their wheels and spend all of their time and their money and their energy and their spirit and their soul trying to achieve something that is impossible. We cannot become 15 again. We cannot prevent the wrinkles. We can go buy creams and stuff, but those wrinkles are going to happen eventually. We might delay it for a little while, but it's impossible for us to go back to 15-year-old bodies. It just is. An entire industry is based on making us chase that.
Even more insidious than the fact that we can't actually achieve the 15 again, you have women who are out there and do an amazing job to look so beautiful. The hair extensions, the makeup, the eyelashes, the nails, the Brazilian wax, ick, by the way, all of those things, and you end up being this amazingly tall, beautiful, long-haired, perfectly made up, elegant woman. You know what she's called? High maintenance.
Oh. Impossible then. It's again impossible.
Yep.
You have to strive to achieve it, and if by chance you should achieve something like it, you are also then put down for that.
Right.
God damn it.
That's another bummer.
Peckerheads.
What if, okay, scenario. What if every woman on the planet just decided to free bleed if she wanted to, stopped buying period products, stopped wearing makeup, stopped buying the hair products, just use shampoo or soap for your hair, stopped buying expensive creams, stopped buying razors and stopped shaving, stopped buying the Spanx and the push-up bras and all these things that we do, stop buying high heels? That's a whole other discussion we can have about high heels, because I was addicted to high heels and I realize now that was, it was anyway, a whole different discussion. What if overnight all of us just decided to do that, and all of us decided we would support whatever comes out of that house in the morning, whatever they look like? We're going to be, yeah, you go, girl, you go and do your stuff. What would happen?
It would be a completely different world. It would be a completely different world. And even if we all agreed that we would do this in this actual reality, the reason I think that could never be the case is because if 98% of us decided that we were going to do this, then the 2% that didn't are going to be the ones rewarded for their compliance.
Okay, but they're rewarded with the honking, the harassment, the catcalling, right? Is this really what we're after?
Well, they're also rewarded with the money and the attention and the men and the cars and the houses and all of these things that come with having that kind of attention from men who can afford to lavish that attention on you.
There are many other ways to get money and attention and companionship and love than to make yourself up to an impossible standard and be the 2% that goes out there to get that. I don't think that marriage is such a reward that I would sacrifice my sisterhood to go be better than them so I can go get that marriage reward. I don't see it.
That's never been kind of our path. We don't live in that world, but I see it. Like, you can see it on Insta.
I'm not
what
on
that
Insta.
is.
Okay.
I know, I'm not either, but you know what it is, right? You know what the influencer culture looks like.
At the same time, I have to bring back the balance. At the same time, the Gen Zs that I'm aware of are not investing in making themselves look like little girls. They're not.
I think we're always going to have this. There's always going to be people who want to land on both sides. I think, thankfully, right now, like when we were growing up, it was pretty well understood in the culture that fat was bad, thin was good, white was good, black was bad. We just kind of all just assumed that everybody knew this. I do think there's been a lot of pushback in these last 40 years or so that this next generation does want to do things differently. And at the same time, there are still going to be too many people that are not willing to do that much self-reflection and self-love work and compassion for other people. There's always going to be those people that just still want to rise to the top with whatever weapons they have in their what do you call it? A weapon kit.
A weapon kit. I have nothing against that. Honestly, you do you for you, right? That's fine. I'm not going to tell everybody they have to do certain things. Is it progress that in this day and age, men are trying to be more aesthetically pleasing? Like the Looksmaxxing, which is not about health. It's about physicality. The wearing makeup, the hair products for men, the face products for men, the fit checks. I think men are more getting to that superficial, and I'm wondering if that's progress or if that's fights against what we're trying to achieve here of self-acceptance.
The Looksmaxxing, I think the Looksmaxxing is harmful, so therefore I'm against it. I'm not in favor of any beauty regimen that includes harm. The wearing makeup on men, I'm kind of torn on that. Because you're right. On one hand, like, do we really want to be encouraging another entire gender of people to have to pour money and energy into an impossible to achieve goal? At the same time, there are people who just genuinely love to look like that.
Yes.
And for those people, if it's because it's a passion of theirs, I think I'm all in. And I think even for women, if there are women for whom fashion is their thing, they love it, makeup is my thing, I have a passion for it, I'm like, go, yes, go find your passion. I don't think that we need to then, though, place that expectation on the entire planet of humans to try to rise to a level of beauty standard that we can never achieve. I think it's two kind of separate things.
I don't think that's what's going to happen, though, because it's still socially unacceptable or not socially acceptable enough for men to wear makeup than it's something that they're going to feel pressured into. I feel like the men who are wearing makeup are really doing it because they love it. And that really should be the reason for anybody, not just the men. But I think that's what's going on with men, that they want to do it, not because their
Yeah.
peers are pressuring them to wear makeup, because that's not happening.
Right.
And the nail polish, men wearing nail polish, I love this trend because you do it because you want to.
The trend of men with nail polish, not young men, but like 30-something men with nail polish was girl dads
Yes.
wanting to
Yes.
connect with their daughters. That's where that started. I am so irritated that I follow content creators that are men that can get on their damn phone anytime, day or night. Pop the phone up, pop that phone up, pop that phone up. I've got a lot to say. Pop that phone up. I have to make a whole day out of prepping to be able to be on my damn phone. And it's very irritating because I have as much to say as the men do, but they don't have to prep for it. They don't have to worry about when I turn my phone on, do I have enough eyeliner left over from yesterday because I didn't have the time and energy to get up and redo it again today.
What if you didn't need to do all that preparation? What if you just didn't?
I have been posting in the last couple of weeks. I have been posting without the doing that. And I think the consequence is going to be that I'm not going to get I'm not going to get the engagement that I would get if I said the exact same thing with the makeup. So yeah, there's a consequence.
I think you're right.
Right?
I think you're right.
Legitimately, there's a consequence. So that's why I'm irritated about that.
I would be less irritated about it if we had the same expectation of men. Like I was saying earlier, put your shirt on at least. Put some clothes on. Don't just, I have something to say. I have no concern about what I look like. No concern about what I look like. I'm not saying wear makeup. I'm not saying put eyeliner on and wash your hair. For men, just like maybe cover your nipples just to make it less like I'm in your bedroom with you.
Show your hair once in a while.
If you want to.
Would be good. Okay, so one of the questions that you raised earlier, which we didn't really address, is how do we get there? How do we make a move as womanhood? As a sisterhood? How do we make that move? So what you were saying reminded me of the Liberian sex strike. And this was when in Liberia, the women had zero power to affect any change. Their governments were fighting each other. The men were fighting each other, and they wanted it to stop. And so the women came together and said, we will not have sex with our partners until this stops.
That takes some coordination, frankly.
Yeah. Their movement to come together and collectively decide that they were going to use the one power that they had in their culture gives me hope that we possibly have it in us to do the same thing. I have been starting to do a little bit of digging into matriarchal societies, and there are multiple movements that are encouraging the formation of matriarchal units. So it's women coming together with other women for the purpose of building community so that when things happen in the community, the women are ready for action. The women can, like, in a heartbeat, just like go. Like, we got you. And I'm so curious to see how this is going to go, because the creation of the matriarchies is not in itself an effort to overturn the patriarchy. It's not a violent overthrow.
No.
Of the patriarchy. What it is we're going to go do this in the background while y'all are having your wars out there and you're fighting and you're bickering and your little man-child battles or whatever. But over here, the women are going to create matriarchies, and we are going to create communities. And this is how we're going to survive if the world goes to shit.
I feel like those matriarchies have a place for men, for sure, for men with the right attitude, but that place is not in charge.
So we did start, you and I started looking a little bit into the matriarchal societies. My mom and my daughter and I go to the nail salon, and the women who perform the services for us are primarily from Vietnam. And on the television screen, they play these YouTube videos of usually younger women doing all kinds of just everything task-wise in Vietnam. They're very kind of ASMR-y, but I'm absolutely riveted by these videos. And these women, they not only cook, but they go catch their own dang fish, or they go and slaughter the, help. I don't know if they actually do the slaughtering, but they help take like raw meat and they prep the meat. This one episode, this woman was going to have to boil a stew. And in order to boil the stew, she had to have an oven to bake it in. So she went and made clay out of dirt and water and formed this clay into this like gigantic oven and then fired it so that it was solid enough to cook with. And then she put the food in and she cooked this meal. So like literally she had to make the own damn oven before she could cook the food. And then I've seen also ones where they're doing textiles. And so these women literally shave the sheep themselves. They take all of the pieces and parts and then they thread it and then they put the wool and then they do the things. And then not only do they do that so that they can get wool, then they take the wool and they make these like bamboo lattices that they've handmade out of bamboo. And then they string these lattices with wool, and then they take the fluffy wool and they put it inside, and then they take pieces of material that they also have created with the silk that they actually harvested from the silkworms that they collected last week, and then they like make blankets. I'm just like, I cannot get enough of these videos. And I thought to myself, what do the men do? Like literally, what do the men do in that country? Because they do everything from making their own oven to shearing their own sheep. And I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something as those men do. The only time we ever see men in these videos is when it's an older gentleman who's kind of retired from the hard work of whatever the hard work was that they were doing. And sometimes they'll be shucking corn or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, so there's a place for men in a matriarchal society, but what do they do? What do they do? Maybe that's a really long story to come around to. A matriarchy is not only women.
Or oppressive or dominant.
Or oppressive or dominant, but it does rely upon women taking the lead. And when women take the lead in matriarchal societies, there is less war, there is more education, there is less domestic violence. I think it's time, ladies.
I'll close with one thought from a book. The book is called Drawdown, and it is basically a coffee table book talking about the destruction of our planet in multiple different ways. And it's very disheartening, but it also offers solutions. So in the back of the book, there are written out very clearly like 10 things that we as society need to do to prevent this destruction of our entire planet and society and all of that. The number one thing, which was actually the most important by orders of magnitude, what do you think was the number one thing that would reverse the damage to our planet?
In light of our conversation, I would have to say it would be making women in charge of things.
It was educating women. Educating women.
Ooh.
Was the one thing globally that would, on its own, and more than anything else, would change the trajectory of our society and our planet.
Wow, when we're talking about saving the planet by educating women, it really kind of puts into perspective how trivial it seems now to spend so much time and energy trying to be small and young and little girlish.
Pluck your eyebrows, save the world. I don't know.
Yeah, I only have so much time in my day.
I'm not plugging my eyebrows, and I'm not going to shave anymore. That's my tiny contribution to this conversation. Coming soon on Super Random Things with those sisters.
I didn't peak in high school. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
But I can't discount the fact that those were amazing years. I was thinking the other day about looking back over the course of my life and thinking through all of the times in my life that I would consider some of the best times of my life. And I was thinking about it in terms of what was going on, how was I feeling emotionally, who was around me, and seeing if I could draw some patterns or pick out some common themes of things that were going on so that I could maybe continue to have those best times of my life moving forward.
I'm going to go yet again to my common card of I don't want to be that nerd, but I am, because a couple years ago I did a Gantt chart of all of the eras of my life and when things changed. So I put on one category education. I put in men that I was dating or not dating. I put in having my children and my children being in school. I put in where I lived when I moved houses or moved cities. So it's just this visual representation of my entire life and all of the blocks that were stable times where those big changes didn't happen and all those times where the changes did happen. It would be really interesting to me to go back and look at that from an emotional perspective and see if I can pick out times on that Gantt chart that were actually really good times.
So there was a dirt road in our town that went way the heck out into the middle of nowhere, and it wound you around to just a smattering of houses, and it backed up to the backside of the golf course. And on that dirt road, there was a place that we called the quarry. It was not an awesome quarry. It didn't have a giant pool where we could swim in, and it wasn't even all that tucked away from anything. But all of the stoners and then all of the people who were partying, it didn't have a place to party, would go out to the quarry. And this happened before we got to high school. And by the time we got to high school, you and I and our parents had moved into one of the houses at the end of that street. So I literally had to ride my bike past the quarry every single day.
I also rode my bike past that quarry and never saw people.
No, because they had stopped doing it by then. But I thought it was the coolest thing that we were moving to the location where the quarry was. We could literally walk to the quarry.
You were attracted to the bad boys?
Always. 100% I was. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Hey, Asla, do you like your mom's content?
I do. Do you like it, Kiwi?
I really do. I like my mom's content.
It's amazing.
Hey, like and subscribe, please.
Like and subscribe.